you're not eating. You're significantly eating less. We know that, right? And so eventually, what happens to almost every person is they hit this massive plateau. That's your daily eating window. First calories consumed in the day, last calories consumed in the day. We call that the eating window. You want to compress that to about 6 to 8 hours. But with the stress, you need to adopt a stress management technique that you can incorporate like once per day, for example, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And so there's so many out there. Welcome, everybody. So my name is Dr. Jones. Achieving lasting weight loss is one of the most important things, I think, for optimal health, among many other things. But the thing that's eluded the world is how do we lose weight and keep it off? And to this date, there still isn't any method that's ever been established that actually works, which is why it's rare when you think about everybody that you know personally who's lost weight, that it's a low percentage of people that you probably personally know that have actually maintained it. And that's just because we still, from a literature standpoint, haven't figured this out. We're barely recognizing that obesity is a disease. What does that mean? What does that look like? For me, with 20 years in this space, I can tell you that what that means is that people have hormonal issues that develop over time, right? This disease is not a black and white switch that all of a sudden your BMI 35 and now you have it. No, that's silly when you understand the way the body works. It's various things happening to your body. The moment you become 5, 10 pounds overweight, these things progress and get worse and worse. And these things that we're talking about are insulin resistance, inflammation, poor fat adaptation, and then a couple other things, but those are the big three. And then each of you guys have your own genetic aspects that perpetuates that, makes it faster, makes it worse. And so at the end of the day, though, the way we've been so successful, which is why we're growing so fast right now in this particular realm, is because people don't want to be stuck on these medications for the rest of their life. And it's possible we're doing that, but that's because the FLOA protocol is very aggressive in nature, as you guys have seen from my videos, but the attainment is so high. And then creating that lifestyle for you guys afterwards is so important to me too, because my goal for everybody was you lose your weight via the FLOA protocol, you get to your weight loss goal, we wean you off the meds, and now you maintain your weight. What day in the future, what 2 days am I going to be doing my long fast? You guys probably heard that's one of the things that we do is we do this crazy long fast every single week. So I'll give you guys my sort of scenario because that tends to be the most popular kind of option, but doesn't have to be this way. So I tend to eat more on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Those are my days where I'm eating more calories. I'm eating more carbohydrates. I'm also lifting weights those days. And then I come back in Monday and I go back to work mode. And although I'm working all the time, but you get my point. Like I'm working straight all day on Mondays and it's a lighter day. I go back to low carb and then I finish dinner and then I'll fast. If I am in a weight loss mode or a fat loss mode, I'll be fasting 48 hours every single week, sometimes longer. And so I'll go Monday night to Wednesday night. In that scenario, Tuesday morning, that's the perfect day for my weigh-in because it's basically you wake up and you're starting your fast. The reason why we do that is because if you start weighing yourself in that scenario on Wednesday or Thursday, massive weight loss, but then you're also going to regain water weight. So about 60 to 70% of that loss from that long 48-hour fast is water that you regain, and then you're left with a net loss. So you don't want to confuse yourself with the freaking daily weigh-ins. Don't do that. If you know how to interpret that, great, but it just becomes a pain in the butt. So I want you guys to pick now, like looking in the future. Am I going to be fasting on the weekends? Am I going to be doing what Dr. Jones does? Whatever you want, make that decision as soon as possible, and then synchronize your weigh-ins now for the future. And then also your weekly shots, the GLP-1s are one time a week. Just do that in the same time too as well. So you're killing two birds with one stone. You wake up Tuesday morning, boom, before you drink your water, you weigh yourself, you're in the kitchen, you take your tirzepatide shot, bam, that's your Tuesday morning deal, if you're following my example. Okay, so let's talk plateaus. This is super important, right? It's very evident to me that the majority of people out there, including endocrinologists and bariatric surgeons and obesity specialists, do not understand how plateaus work. It baffles me to this day. How do I know this? Because I see things like patient is post-bariatric surgery, which you guys know is a mechanical restriction of the amount they can eat, right? The GLP-1s are way better because they do so much more than mechanical. They actually get to the hormonal issues, what's making you hungry. But in any case, a bariatric surgery is a powerful mechanical reduction. So anybody, whether it's bariatric surgery or lap band, you're not eating. You're significantly eating less. We know that, right? And so eventually what happens to almost every person is they hit this massive plateau. And I'll see crazy things like, okay, great. Now my doctor wants me to get on these meds to suppress my appetite even more as a solution to why the weight loss stopped, which clearly means they don't understand. You got to fix the metabolic damage that you created from the mechanical restriction from the surgery first. But it's just, they don't teach this stuff in standard medical science. And so anyways, I've just picked this up and I understand it and I've seen it thousands and thousands of times over the last 20 years. So plateaus are crucial. It's not that your metabolism gets damaged. I hate when people say that because it makes it sound like physical damage. It's completely fixable. It's just you screw it up, I guess is another way to say it. And the result of that is your metabolism slows down. And now you're in this slowed metabolism state. How are you going to lose weight long term if your metabolism's slower? You need your metabolism high, and you want to keep it as high for the majority of time if you want to be successful for long-term weight maintenance. Not to mention, when your metabolism slows down, your quality of life decreases because you think about what your metabolism is. That's your battery. That's your energy. And so if your body figures out how to run off less calories, that means it's turning off a lot of your juice. And this is why when people are in a plateau, they become brain foggy, they lose energy, they become cranky, they're not pooping as often, all sorts of different things. And that's another reason why I call it battery saving mode, but battery saving mode sucks. So let's get you out of that. Sometimes it's easy to see if you're in a plateau, and sometimes it's not. So the easy scenario is, I started a weight loss program before you, Dr. Jones. I was losing weight. I'm still trying to lose weight and I stopped. That's an easy one. A trickier one is, I really haven't started a weight loss program, but then we get talking and then we realize you're under eating. If you're under eating, you've just been in a plateau for so long, you don't even know it. So we got to cover all that. So we talked about what a plateau is, right? Slow down in the metabolism. What creates a plateau? Calorie deficit over time, right? Let that sink in. A calorie deficit over time was a trend that you produced, that your body picked up on, detected, and it slowed things down. So the way you get out of that is the opposite, calorie surplus over time. So you create the opposite trend and your body goes, oh, I don't need to keep the battery low. I can crank up the juice and turn on the fire again. That's what we got to do. We're going to talk about stages of fasting next. Anybody who's doing a reset, do not go past stage 1 of fasting. Okay, so the stages of fasting, the goal is to get to that flow stage, which is stage 3. And look, 48 hours per week is, human beings are not that black and white, but you see me talk about that a lot because that's a good number that works for most people. We never want to go more than 2.5 days or 3 days every single week. Even if you have a ton of fat to lose, that's a little bit too much. Your body will plateau. I have found that 48 for most people is about the most you can do to reap all the benefits of fasting, which is the calorie restriction, which is the hormonal responses, your body becoming insulin sensitive, the reduction of inflammation. It's the most benefits you can get without triggering starvation mode, right? Most human beings, 4 days not eating, you plateau yourself, 4 to 5 days. You start reducing metabolism, which is similar to what happens is, let's say you're not fasting at all, but you're eating 500 calories less per day, for example. That's your typical diet. Let's eat 500 less or burn 500 more. That takes a lot longer to plateau, but it's the same thing, right? Calorie deficit over time. And the bigger the deficit, the faster your body responds. So the FLOA protocol just has that genius design where you take a step back and not think of daily fat loss or weight loss. We think of weekly. The entire week's fat loss we want to get in 2 days. And the rest of the week, we're telling the brain, we're not starving, we're not dieting, we're eating a lot those days, which is a benefit of counting calories for a couple weeks. Because you probably saw that I think counting calories for 99.5% of people is unsustainable, not fun. And so I don't need to do it with my patients. But if you enjoy it, great. You'll get better results if you actually enjoy it, which, as most people know. But I want people to have counted calories for a couple weeks, whether it be because of the reset or if you're not resetting because you don't need to and you've never counted calories. I want you to do it for 3 weeks just to develop what I call calorie counting intuition. Calorie counting intuition is awesome. It's being able to look at food and just estimate, have some sort of general idea. I'm probably past my calories today, or yeah, it really does add to that convenience and sustainability part, FYI. But anyways, going back to fasting now. So you guys need to, once you're through your reset, progress yourself through those stages. So stage one is intermittent. That's your daily eating window. First calories consumed in the day, last calories consumed in the day. We call that the eating window. You want to compress that to about 6 to 8 hours. Okay. That's stage one. I don't actually want you going less than that on a daily basis. Okay. And that's where you get into things like OMAD. And I get asked this question a lot. OMAD, which is 1 meal a day, could be the most powerful thing out there. The problem is I've seen if you're only eating 1 meal a day, unless you're counting calories and macros, you are going to end up likely under eating calories and under consuming protein.
Yeah.
If you make sure that didn't happen, OMAD would actually be probably the best thing you could do, just because but again, most people aren't doing that. So that's why I steer away from OMAD. But moving on past intermittent, once you feel comfortable with, that's when you get into stage one, which is 24-hour fast. So that's going from dinner to dinner, right? The goal for stage two, sorry, is you being able to do that twice in a week, 3-day break. Once you feel comfortable, that's when you push the envelope to the flow stage. So the flow stage is when you fast from dinner to dinner, and then you go to bed. This is the first time, right? It's going to feel weird if you've never done this. Intentionally, if you've never done this, where you go to bed after not having eaten all day. It's going to feel really weird. Some of you are going to feel freaking great the first time you do it because the ketone bodies, you've never felt it, and your body just felt really good. It produced ketones fast. So you're going to love it. I'd say that's probably 1 out of 3 people. The other 2 out of 3, and it also, the variable is how fast do you try to push yourself to that stage. That if you push yourself really fast, you're going to meet more resistance. But some of you are going to feel neutral, and some of you are going to feel really tired and crummy. Just understand, and then that might make you think, why am I doing this? Again, like zooming back out, like we're just doing what our ancestors did for millions of years. That's all we're doing. We're just challenging our body to rely on its internal fat mobilizing systems, which why in the world would our bodies be able to put on 100 pounds of extra fat if it didn't want to tap into that at some point? This is the way to make it tap into it, other than a pure ketogenic diet too as well, which is why people lose weight on keto and Atkins, but they can't sustain it. So again, how do we make this sustainable? And we're going to talk about keto in a second. So anyways, you accept that, you work with your body. And then once you can do that first 36 or that overnight thing, you wake up, now you're into that realm where it's the next day. And the goal, whether it's that week or it takes you a few weeks, is you're doing that length of a fast 1 time per week, right? And you're trying to work up to the point where you can get to 48. And then once you can get to a 48, Tuesday night to Thursday night or whatever, you just keep doing that every single week. And you officially are at the flow protocol. You should be just melting fat off your body. 1 to 1.5% per week is the traditional, what I expect, especially if you're taking AOD too as well. And then we're here to support you for any hiccups or roadblocks that happen. So you are progressing yourself, right? I want to make that clear, at your own rate. Each of you guys have your own bodies, your own chemistry, your own mindsets. And you guys want to move fast or you want to move slow, right? It's totally up to you. You could race or you could slow walk. It's all good. Just understanding that, like I said earlier, going fast means more resistance. That's the name of the game. We'll talk about food next. We'll talk about supplements next. So now we talk about food, right? What are we eating when we're not fasting? So and this isn't the first time you're hearing this, right? Processed foods, but maybe this is the first time you're hearing it like this. Processed foods are killing you. They are at their own rates. Between the high amount of processed sugars, the high amount of additives and chemicals and toxic exposure, it's just a reality. Now, for me, I like to be sustainable, which is why you're not going to hear me say never touch them again, because that's not real, right? And so 90-10 is where I like to start you guys. Let's keep 90% of your food clean, which just means non-processed. That's the perimeter of the grocery store, right? If you're opening a package, a box, it's processed, right? So if we can do 90% clean, this is where Paleo Mediterranean come from. It just means lack of process. But there's probably some foreign foods too that I'm not familiar with that are fine by my definition, because really I could call it the anti-processed food diet. Just do your best to get 90% of that. The goal in the future is we can decrease 90-10 to 80-20 or 75-25, much more sustainable. Because guess what, guys? When your weight's balanced, closer to ideal, your inflammation's down, you're insulin sensitive, which is all the effects of the flow protocol, you could tolerate junk food better. Not trying to give you the ticket to eat like crap, but I want to give you some of that ability to live a normal life, right? And that's what I'm thinking with more than anything else. Trust me when I say that, because I have to do these things for myself because I used to be overweight, as you guys know this. One of the reasons I'm so passionate about this is because I do the same stuff for myself. So I think I'm living it with you guys. Within that frame of reference, reducing processed foods, 90-10, going keto as much as you can for the first 2 months. Just like counting calories, going keto for life would be great, really would be, but it's just not sustainable. So give me 2 months. And then at about the 2 month mark, if your weight loss is smooth, you're losing what you should be losing, even if you're not at your weight loss goal, I will want you to start increasing your carbohydrates at that point. Usually, if you haven't seen me talk about this, I like a lifestyle of carb cycling, which means carb cycling, carb loading, you hear all these different things. Basically, it's just having days where you allow yourself to eat carbs and then days where you say, I'm going to go keto. And I've just found that it's so much easier when you think I'm not depriving myself of carbs forever, but I'm going to have 3 to 4 days a week where I don't eat them. And I get to look forward to the weekend, whatever, whenever you want to reward yourself. And that balance where you give yourself low carb days is such a powerful tool for so many reasons. And so that's like the future. But in the meantime, we want you to go keto for those first couple months and then start to transition 2 months later. One of my favorite things to do is freaking Greek yogurt, unsugared, high protein Greek yogurt, smash in some berries, mix in some monk fruit. It tastes so freaking good. And it's got that real dessert-like feeling without any of the bad side. So I'm fine with some berries. Don't go eat 2 bags of berries right in a single day. But who's doing that? But you start getting into those giant GMO apples, you're doing a ton of bananas, that's problematic. So we have to really understand that. I think the nutrients that you get from berries are extremely high. All of them have their own unique profiles. And so a nice spectrum of berries.
Don't go crazy.
But don't go crazy. Exactly. Okay, cool. Let's move to supplements, right? I broke it down for you guys in categories. You have your essentials, and then you have situational. That's your magnesium, vitamin D, your essential fatty acids from the fish oil, a good multivitamin. That's your anti-inflammation for curcumin, resveratrol. And then finally, electrolytes, which is essential because you guys are going to be fasting. Once you get to 24 and more, you better not forget your electrolytes. You'll feel it. The appetite suppressing supplements, I want you guys to get your hands on one of those things. It's nice to have a supplement that you can lean on during times, especially when you're trying to push yourself through the long fasting in the beginning. Having some Unimate, some Balance, those are my 2 favorite ones, are really nice, but there's also other options there too as well. And then you have the situational, the stress and sleep, the gut healing. And so those are all there to help you if you struggle with any of those issues, because these issues I find can be a roadblock to weight loss. Like stress and sleep onto themselves, we're going to talk about that next. Lack of 7 hours of quality sleep is a stressor, and then stress in your life is a stressor. What do stressors do? They spike cortisol when they shouldn't be spiked, and cortisol leads to glucose spiking, and glucose spiking is the opposite of what we're trying to do. And so if you're not getting quality sleep or you are stressed, you can take those supplements now that I recommend there. But you really want to implement lifestyle, right? If I only cared about selling you guys supplements for life, then why would I be talking? I don't want that. I have your trust. That's the relationship I want to build with you guys. And so I will not sell you things when I don't think you need them. So in the beginning, yes, get a couple bottles to help you. But after that, I think the lifestyle stuff that I teach you can keep you so that you don't need the sleep supplements for life, or you don't need the adaptogenic herbs for life. Some people will, but most people don't. Also, you might be somebody who was getting good sleep, and then your sleep gets disturbed when you start the FLOA protocol. That might happen, just a forewarning. You start fasting for 48 hours for the first couple of times, your body is pumping out hormones it hasn't pumped out, which are called flight or fight hormones. That's where that jolt of energy and focus comes from. You're like, whoa, why do I feel a little jittery? That's called adrenaline. And the adrenaline is doing lots of good things for you, but it might interrupt your sleep. And if that happens, now you know why. And the same thing that would have fixed it if it's an issue now is going to fix it then. You got to go in there and start implementing those optimization techniques. If you are somebody who just loses sleep quality and he becomes extremely restless, then you need to stop the fasting and let us know. It's pretty rare, but losing sleep is actually more detrimental than the fasting. So we'll fix that for you. If you are dealing with chronic stress in your life, who isn't nowadays since COVID, I feel like. So implementing the way that you handle stress is a little bit different, right? Sleep, you just implement a bunch of changes to your environment, more or less. But with the stress, you need to adopt a stress management technique that you can incorporate. like once per day, for example, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And so there's so many out there. Yoga, drawing, journaling, breath work, mindfulness, meditation. There's so many. There's apps now. There's stress management. Just gotta pick one. Just look at that. Just look at those options. Just pick one. Do it consistently every day. I recommend closer to bedtime. That can be part of your bedtime routine. Helps you wind down. And this is just a good insurance card to just lower any possible spikes of cortisol. So unless you know that your life is just chill and good and stress is low, you should probably incorporate one of those techniques. It's really expensive and hard to test for cortisol. That's why I don't recommend that. It's better to just try to optimize cortisol, assuming it's probably a little high, because it is in most cases. Finally, working out. You've probably seen me talk about this. Weight training is the most important thing you should be doing. If that's all you did, I would be fine. Generally, I tell people if you can get to a gym because there's more stuff there, but if you have a nice gym at your home that you can hit the basics, great. You really want to target those muscles like you are trying to build muscle mass, which is crazy. I have really good videos on FLOA University talking about that, but you want to train like you are trying to bulk. I know that sounds crazy, but you won't bulk. Don't worry, because you're flow fasting. You won't, but you're going to protect your muscle mass very powerfully. And that would be, if you could not lose any muscle mass and just lose fat, that would be the most favorable response from your body for so many reasons. And the way that you look at lifting really controls that. You guys have heard the term Ozempic butt, right? Ozempic butt is a real thing. You don't want to lose your butt, your glute tissue. It happens. And that doesn't happen because of the medications. That happens because these people are not eating enough, they're not eating enough protein, and no one's telling them how important lifting is. So that's why they're losing their butt. You want to stimulate those muscles as much as you can. And anything after that is just an add-on. If you want to add cardio, you can. Now, during the reset, you just got to keep your cardio low during the reset.
Yeah.
Because again, burning calories is contradictory to what we're trying to do in the reset. But after the reset, if you want to add cardio to your weights, great. And I have a video talking about my favorite form of cardio. It's a very specific type of high intensity interval training. And that one that I talk about is really powerful. And I would encourage you guys to look at that and try that if you want to get in some cardiovascular benefit, which has its own benefit for health. It's just not needed for sustainable weight loss, but it is needed for health. And health is needed to maintain a healthy weight. So you see how it works its way back into that equation. So when I'm talking resistance for the goal of protecting muscle mass, we need to lift weights like a bodybuilder lifts weights.
Yeah.
But the resistance of the bike, great. Yeah, that's good stuff for sure. It won't replace what a bodybuilder does. As far as an aid to eat less or an aid to help you do some fasting with it. If you guys found this video informative and you learned, then you're gonna want to check out this following video that I link. It's all about lasting weight loss. We'll see you there. Because the literature is actually very clear. 70% of people who stop these medications regain their weight back within a single year. So clearly losing weight is far from what needs to be done.